what's in my power and my control to set myself up to be prepared to serve, to give, to empower others. I was kind of looking at my reading list just the other week, and it's, as much as we try to or want to accumulate wealth, the more that we grow, the more we can bless others. And it's the same way. The healthier I am, the more that I can serve others, the more that I can help people.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Moeller Real Estate and Business Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Moeller, and on this podcast, we will be interviewing guests that have made their mark in real estate, in business, and in other areas of life. Listening to podcasts myself has helped me in so many different ways and continues to do so. If you're a real estate investor or an entrepreneur or aspiring to be either, or just someone that wants to learn, you've come to the right place. An easy way to have an impact is to share this episode with friends or family, provide a review, or just spread the word. We greatly appreciate it, and now let's get to the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Moeller Real Estate and Business Podcast. Very excited for this week's guest, Lisa Marino, Dr. Lisa Marino. Lisa, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks, Phil.
Well, I'm very excited for today. I've kind of been on this health journey myself and trying to figure things out. Recently signed up with Victress Health, my wife and I, to work with you. So I've been learning more and more about what you're doing, and I'm excited to get it even more. But really, I'm excited to get into your story. Why should we be healthy? How can we be healthy? What is direct primary care? Things like that. So I said some of it, but Lisa is the owner of Victress Health and Wellness. And really, you're transforming, I'll just say healthcare to shorten it, for families, for small businesses, and bringing together these different things: direct primary care, functional medicine, physical therapy, trying to bring them all together for your patients. So we'll get into that and what all that means. But before we do, Lisa, what's your story? Why did you come down this path?
Yeah, so my background is in physical therapy, but just always had a passion for. My mom was a gym teacher, and that it goes all the way back to that. It made me sad to see even classmates and folks that like just didn't have that passion for wellness and health and things like that. So all the way back then, and then kind of fast forward to my first rotation at Ohio State OSU Medical Center. I was on one of the med surg floors, and kid you not, very first patient of the day is a 30-something male who is a good 500 pounds, and his like married. He's got 3 kids in this room, and we could literally not find another gown. You had to like drape one gown on the front and one gown on the back just for this man to have any decency. And it's so just like from the beginning, it is like, where did we go wrong? Not only as a health system, the way we treat patients, but like to me is always thinking, where were we 20 years ago? Where were we 10 years before that? 5 years, in this man's life that we failed him. So we're always thinking ahead and being as preventative focused as possible. And so we're, very excited. It's gotten a lot of, there's a lot more talk about it in the media, where you're seeing more people talking about this. We should be able to predict and prevent a lot of what is going on, in our healthcare system. And so for me, it was about really kind of breaking away from what was traditional and saying, we've got to be able to do it differently. And maybe it was because I was stubborn, and maybe it was because I'm too proud, but it was like, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And actually, I want to get into, for our listeners, why be healthy. But actually, one thing I wasn't thinking of, but kind of your story brings up a little bit, is there's reasons, and I want you to answer, why should we be healthy for ourselves? But we are building habits that our kids are watching closely, or our passions, whatever. That's what you got from your mother, and just being around fitness in general, I would say health and fitness, and being a gym teacher. So I think the first, like, our kids are watching, first of all, and whatever our habits are, they're going to pick those up. That was a takeaway that I wasn't planning on really talking about, but you brought up right away. So beyond that, though, you can elaborate on that, but beyond that, why, like, I think things start with being intentional and being purposeful for something. So why should we be healthy? If it's not obvious, but just what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's always about a root cause, and when you're looking at that, obviously any of us can come up with our own goals, mission statement, anything. For me, it always comes back to what is God's will for my life. And most of us are probably in kind of that married sector where it's like I have to, provide for my family, or I have to care for my family. And like you're saying, it is part of growing in virtue. It is part of what we would call becoming a saint, right? That I'm going to perfect myself in that way. Now, does suffering touch each and every one of us? Yes, it does. It teaches us to be humble, but also I'm going to do what's in my power and my control to set myself up to be prepared to serve, to give, to empower others. Just I was kind of looking at my reading list just the other week, and it's as much as we try to or want to accumulate wealth, the more that we grow, the more we can bless others. And it's the same way. The healthier I am, the more that I can serve others, more that I can help people. And so it depends on where you fall in that line. I go back and forth myself. Is this the year I'm going to do the marathon? Is this the year that I'm going to, go and do this triathlon or whatever? We all fall on that spectrum, somewhere. Where honestly, I have 4 kids right now. So mine is very much, I got to work out this morning, and that was like a huge win,
Yep.
but we all get to decide what that means. And I know it is vital for me to be intentional about, making the time and taking the time to exercise. And I can go into a whole litany of studies that they've done on the importance of exercise and mental health. Actually, now they're comparing exercise alone to pharmaceuticals, as far as mental health, depression,
Okay.
anxiety, and exercise still beats them. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, can I hold myself accountable to that? And so mostly we just try to give a lot of hope. There's so much good research and good news out there.
Oh, I
So
like that.
for me, it kind of goes back down to, what do you stand for? What are you, what's your mission? And then obviously wellness only helps you achieve that.
Right. And I
It
think
helps to be intentional.
health is health is such a critical component of your mission statement, but for all areas of life, right? If you want to be a great husband, father, mother, wife, parent, whatever, coworker, leader, when you are healthy, you have energy, you're going to be more inspirational, aspirational, whatever it is. You're going to just be a better person if you have
Yeah.
energy and healthy. You're not worried about and stressed about this ailments or whatever it might be. The other thing I didn't, again, another topic I didn't plan on going down, but I've been watching this or studying this maybe a little bit more, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think there's a misunderstanding of connecting there's a connecting health in the Bible. And
Mhm.
there's a quote that says, "Do not worry about what you look like." But there's also I'm reading Sirach right now, and
Mhm.
or it is there's a lot of health, like be healthy, take care of yourself in general because you can be a better person. And I can't name them. I'm not, but I think there's this misnomer maybe. Have you gone down this rabbit hole at all, or?
Oh, absolutely. All the time. Yeah, I love this topic. And you even just kind of speak on, my husband's side of things, where he's more the provider and protector, right? And it's like what's become apparent even to me through this whole COVID and everything that we're dealing with
Yeah,
in our world and country right now is like, can I even really protect my family? Like, am I in a position to defend them, to fight for them, and so then it's like, oh man, like I should, not just necessarily me myself, but thinking, kind of that male role, like, am I in shape enough to care for them? Like, could we handle that? Or, how
yeah,
am I mentally strong enough to handle this and stay, keep my cool? And so there's all kinds of implications that we probably wouldn't have thought about that, until recently. But that's just one example that's come to mind. But um, we talk about, connecting things like scripture, to it. I think it's important again to go back to, you know, like you said, being intentional. Christ prayed, he took time to pray. There's a certain
and
level of like, what does your day demand of you, and are you doing the things that are necessary for that? There's a lot of prudence in that.
yeah. And the other thing you talked about, I saw on your website, you're not, when we're talking about health, people think physical
Mhm.
health. And that's the first thing they think. But you say on your website, we're looking for whole health. So, in a lot of
Yeah.
the things that, honestly, I'll give an example, but like a lot of things that are healthy physically are also healthy for you for whole health. And you say body and soul. So I'll just give an example, like a morning walk in the sun. hard right now, by the way, where we're at in Ohio, a little bit.
Nope.
I think we're supposed to get some sun, but then it just gets really, really cold in January and February in Ohio. But a morning walk out in the sun, there, that's not just
Mhm.
physical health. There's other
Yeah.
elements of. So what, I guess, what do you mean by whole health?
That it's more that we're body and soul. It's not that we're body, mind, and soul. The mind is part of the body, but it's, we are, you know, intimately two parts. And so when we just totally go all in on the body and we've, neglected the other side of things, we're not even aware of who we are as people. And so that's, we're seeing that where we're very materialistic and it's just all about science. And deny this a whole other truth to like who we are. Um, and then you can go the other way where it's like, oh, we're just spiritual beings. This is all consciousness, and it's like, no, like we're physical, we, our heart works a certain way, and so it's really about, kind of melding the two of those.
Yeah.
And we just try to meet people where we're at because we know people are not ready to have that kind of conversation every day.
I want someone that I'm working with that understands that and is thinking about that and conscious of it, and also meeting where I'm at, because like I think a good healthcare provider that is thinking about planning and preventative and giving hope is not saying go from A to Z today, but it's let's get you from A to B and have a strategy for that too. So I want to use that maybe as a transition to talk about, so let's be healthy. So we talked a little bit about why be healthy. It impacts every single area of life. By the way, I'll say this too. We're about to start, a few of us, an Exodus 90 program, which is a Catholic program that
Yeah.
is faith-based. But there are so many different faith elements. Sorry, there are so many different health elements of that and health disciplines of that, because it will
Yeah.
make us a better person of
Oh
faith,
my
right?
gosh.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think 70% of the things are, I would call health related, not faith related. So I think it's just an indication that when that was put together, truly health impacts every single area of life. So if we believe that now, and we need the energy, we need the healthy, we want to be free from sickness and illness. How do we do that? What are the biggest things that when patients come in, they're missing these small, simple, subtle, easy things that they could change,
Yeah.
and it would help them instantly?
Yeah, I would say sleep and stress just right off the bat, not to hammer that home. Most people know that. They know that they need to do it, but like are you really willing to do what it takes? And everybody wants the easy button or like, oh, maybe I could just blame it on my testosterone or maybe I could just, oh shoot, I just have really bad genetics. But I was listening to a podcast earlier today too that was like if we, if we're in that realm of just kind of like excuse or just, searching for answers that, you know, are we willing to do what it takes to actually get there? And so sleep and stress are kind of the big ones of like, I know so many people that are just surviving on 5 to 6 hours. And it's just like, man, can we get up to that 7 to 9
I can
range?
speak to this personally because this is so messed up, but I'll just share it. Like 2 years ago, if you would ask me, and I said, well, no, if I sleep too much, I don't have as many hours in the day and I won't get as much done. And I won't be
Mhm.
like, and I'm probably as an engineer and me calculating the number of hours in my day
Yeah.
per year. And I can add 3 years to my life by just sleeping less. Well,
Yes,
yeah, you'll probably shorten your life by 5 years or whatever it might be if you don't
exactly.
sleep. So I made an intentional change probably close to 2 years ago, and I feel so much better, so much more energy. So the hours, instead of 6, it's closer to 8, and the hours I have are so much better, more productive, more engaging. So
Yes.
I can't stress the personally, sleep has impacted me. Will that impact everyone? If there's probably a right number. Maybe, I guess you said
Yeah.
7 to 9. That's broad.
7 to 9, yeah. Somewhere in that range. Some people fall. I mean, there's different windows where now they're saying like, it used to be just 8, but now they're saying like, is there kind of a window of 7.5 where you hit a certain sleep cycle? So again, we're all about personalizing it, so whether that's using a wearable or you just, you're tracking
uh,
yourself, but we all kind of know if
What
we're,
where do we what wearables? To tell me more about that, because I mean, I've heard some of them. I haven't significantly tracked sleep myself. I've been debating it. I know there's some also
Mhm,
different sleep, some different, like 8 Sleep or different brands or things that help you
sure.
sleep better too. But how do we measure this, or how might we?
Yeah, so they're so far advanced and sophisticated. And I haven't spent too much other time than like I just have a Fitbit, so like that's what I've just stuck with. But there's a lot of folks that are jumping on with Whoop, is the other one. Um, And, I just kind of defer to them because they're keeping the technology up. And so what we'll do is we'll just try to incorporate that. Obviously, again, we're talking about like one piece of the puzzle here.
Yep.
We're having patients come in, okay, show me, what it looks like, and let's kind of analyze it together,
Yeah. And
as a provider.
I
But
think having a wearable or some sort of device, right? I mean, there's optimal, but it's also taking you where you're at and just improving. It's all relative. So,
right,
I mean,
right.
it's progress over perfection, I think, on
Hmm.
this. I've also heard Aura Ring is really good. That's the one I've debated, but
Yes.
Garmin watches, there's all Apple watches can
Yeah.
do it. And there's questions on different benefits and accuracy of all of them.
Right.
But the point is, well, first of all, you don't need to you don't need to measure it. We're not
No.
saying
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Just be intentional about add 30
Yes.
minutes and then maybe add another 30 minutes if you feel
Well,
like and
most of
pay
us know, like
attention.
what you're saying is like, I need more time in the day, don't we all? But does it not force us to focus on what are the things that I am being intentional about?
Right.
And then it's usually um, I'm not dealing with, or I didn't deal with something that happened today that's keeping me up late at night. Or what, if we're gonna talk on a faith-based, realm here, what am I not giving over to God? And I have to do this on the daily, where am I not trusting? Who am I not forgiven? Have I not forgiven myself for that mistake? So am I
Yep.
doing what it takes to be intentional?
Yep.
And that relays over into like, well, that's exactly what I know I need to do to structure my day. And you could talk about,
Yeah.
schedule blocking and all that, because that just feeds right into the stress component, which is number two.
I wanted to talk about that. Yeah, go ahead. So I
I
guess
think it's
stress. My question on this, I want to talk about it, but my question on this was like stress. So, I'm picturing someone, they have a business or they have a job, but then they're trying to buy real estate on the side and they're busy and
yeah.
they have they have challenges, their kids and getting to places. There's all these stresses, but I can't just get rid of those things. So how do I manage stress
Mhm.
if if maybe I want to try to change some of those things, but if I
Yeah.
can't, how do I manage this? Or and even
Yeah.
start with what's the importance of this and then how do we manage it?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's detachment, being detached from the outcome, right? Like we're going to always set goals, but we always have our eyes, towards heaven or towards this goal. And it's good to want to, provide for our families and to want to grow, right? Like, I mean, you can talk all day about, the parable with, the talents and who could double their,
Yep.
what, the master had given them, right? And it was, you know, looked highly upon to increase that and not to just hide it, right? So we don't have to feel bad about that. And also, am I detached from that? And then usually if I'm not, what am I holding on to? Because I'm not making an intentional effort, an intentional decision about what I'm going to do, towards the
Yeah.
day. And for me, it always becomes apparent, how am I communicating things? Am I delegating in the way that I should be? And it just forces you to get even more and more succinct with your communication skills, and with being intentional that like my time is so valuable that if I'm going to be, in my case, leaving my children, that this is going to provide value to my life. I'm not just in a hurried mess saying I have to do 20 things today. And like each thing that I do provides value and is an intentional, action. And the times that I notice that I'm not getting good sleep and that I'm stressed out, that I'm not taking the time to be intentional and number one, pray, but number two, to really go back to that list where I'm schedule blocking my day and I'm focused. Did that make sense?
I love it. I mean, this is now we're talking like you're getting me excited here. So what I want to add to that is first of all, if you say yes to everything, you're saying no to something. So like use your kids as an example. If you say yes to everybody and everything, you're saying no to something. Be disciplined with your schedule. You're talking about detaching it from the results, and I want to come back to that. But you're not saying don't own your life. You're not saying don't take
Mm,
ownership.
yep.
You are saying detach from the results, which means own what you do. The results, the way I look at it is there's life that happens to you external. There's you, what you do, internal, you control it, right? It's between you and God, and like you control that. And then there's the results you get. The results can be feedback, but recognize that's worldly and
Right.
societal feedback. It's not it doesn't define your identity and who you are. Who
Yes.
you are is what you do. The results are the exterior societal result, but that's not what we're going for. Just use it as a feedback, adjust if you need to. But if you're controlling what you do,
Yeah.
if you're controlling what you do, if you feel good about it or you're getting better, I'll bring it back to you're content, you're detached from results, you lower your stress.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that right there. That's fun for me. You were like, I was getting more and more excited as you're talking about it
I
because I
mean,
just
I'm
resonate
just
with it so much.
more and more convinced that so much about whether we're winning or we're losing, or we're winning or we're learning, is about our mindset. And what am I doing to set myself up for that? And again, it is always, about reconnecting. What is my purpose? And for me, the barometer has been more so just, am I growing in virtue? Am I choosing virtue? Am I choosing, selfishness, right? Versus humility, or am I choosing, you know, um, to own it, like you're saying,
Yeah.
am I
Well,
choosing
and
prudent, or extravagant? Yeah. So,
what I like too is I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but so if we talk about physical health, you know, a like what is going to determine your physical health, in my opinion, is your mindset. The
mm,
mind, like, why do you want to be healthy first? Just having a purpose for it, educating yourself,
yep.
associating with others that have a strong mindset and prioritize health for the right reasons, the things you talked about, but like the courage to get up and do the workout, to get up
Hmm.
and do just take your time and do the prayer, the consistency, all of that is your mindset will impact your physical health, in my opinion, will impact your
Sure.
physical health. It's a result of your mental health and your mindset. So again, you're speaking my language there.
Yeah, I've learned to try to be more objective, less emotional. Now, this may speak more to the ladies, but I think in the guys' case too, because it's usually like, oh, I love that evening, evening beer, whatever, or that evening, we always have dessert, um, whatever it may be. Yeah, like I just can't get out of bed. It's like be objective. Like, this is what my body needs. This is what my family needs. This is what my business needs, instead of like take the emotion out of it,
Yep.
helps you to make that better decision and to see things clearly, to say like, this food is terrible for us. It is literally killing us. We're changing this, and to see it objectively rather than like the emotional attachment that we get, which, you know, unfortunately feeds into our physiology a lot too.
Right, right.
So,
Well, so you talked about sleep and stress, I mean, so those are the big ones,
mhm,
but there's others too. You just talked about food
yeah.
and sweets, you talked about exercising, the discipline for that, or I mean, what are the other big ones and some things within that we can maybe do?
Yeah, I think again, to be as personalized as possible, we generally know, what we try to say is what's going to be the next best step for you. Like you generally know, like, yep, I feel better when I work out, or I tend to have the results that I want when I'm staying consistent with that exercise. On the other hand, there might be somebody that is like, yep, I binge eat, and it happens every whatever week, and XYZ whatever. And so then it is back to that mindset. What are you telling yourself? But and also what's going to make the next best, biggest impact for you.
Yep.
And so stick with that. But some of the biggest ones with that is, you know, the benefits of doing some sort of weight training are so strong. You know, I would make that a goal. Maybe that's not your number one, but that should be one, for this year. There can be some sort of weight training.
And I just had two conversations in the last, I don't know, 12 hours, not 12, 16 hours on this. Um, a buddy of mine that I was texting last night asked him about something, but they said, by the way, they're 45 and they just started weight training. And I think this the I mean, and maybe I'll speak from a guy's perspective, but there's this perception like if I lift weights, I'm a meathead.
Yeah.
And it's not that important. And I've heard like muscle is the organ of longevity. Like it just and
Yep.
the older you get, the harder it is to build muscle. So build muscle now, and it starts to impact everything. It fights fat, it burns fat while you're at rest versus just cardio nonstop. It's the biggest change. It's one of the bigger changes I made 2 years, two or so years ago, as I
Yeah.
incorporated weight training again, and it has changed my energy levels and a lot of other things drastically. It's funny because we just had this conversation twice. Because I think it's so misunderstood, honestly. I think it's a really misunderstood thing.
Right. Just to speak to it gets harder as you age. It also is a tremendous opportunity. They did one study with older population. I think they were in like their 60s or something, excuse me if you're that's your
That's
age group, but it'll technically defined, as that. But they did like a 12-week intervention of weight training. And then just in that 3 months, they were able to reverse, 12 years of muscle that they had lost. So they were able to gain that back,
wow.
years just in that. And usually you're not even technically building muscle in that first 8 to 12 weeks. You're only just, your neurons are firing faster, And so the goal is obviously to build muscle mass, but like you can get that much stronger that quick and reverse, a decade or so, even if, if you've been out of it for a while. So there's always hope. Like the human
Yeah.
body is so amazing that to me, there's just always hope. And
And
that's
I don't know if
people,
were
but
you asking our guests, our listeners, if they were 60 or if I was 60, Lisa. Hopefully you're asking them.
yeah, I
Um,
think you know the answer, but
but no, I was
yeah,
just joking. But I do think, thank you for clarifying that because I don't want people that are older to say, oh, well, it's too late to start now because it's not.
exactly.
Your point is it's not. There's been
Yeah.
studies on it. So I appreciate you clarifying that. That's why you're the expert. So weight training? I think I couldn't agree more. Any other exercise related items or health and diet if we want to go there too.
Yeah, I'll just kind of complete that with like there's studies as low as like 2 times a week. Like you really don't have to do much. You like 20 minutes 2 times a week. So that you're hitting marks, and those are really kind of like the benchmark there is like it doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be 5 days a week. Like
Yep.
just fit it in on those opportune times, 20
Yes.
times a week, and
That's
and
great.
you're gonna really kind of follow some of the good benefits there.
What
So
about diet? What about diet?
yeah, huge, huge. I was just talking with my husband about that the other day. Just the importance, like if I'll have to send you the chart. They kind of showed when diabetes wasn't really introduced until kind of early 20th century, because now we're, figured out that there was a problem, right? And so you see that curve, that kind of trend is when diabetes, was introduced. And I'm bringing this up because then we see, I think it was around like 1973 is when seed oils were introduced. And those
Okay.
are your canola oil, your vegetable oil, basically anything that's packaged and processed is, has been used. And so we see that exact trend, that curve matches the diabetes trend. So as those were introduced is when diabetes like shot up exponentially. And so to me, that is like number one, if you're going to do anything, get those things out of your house. We were not meant to process them, to digest them, and they stay in our bodies for a long time, and our fat kind of holds on to them, and it's just, um,
I
yeah.
think so many people, I just was talking to someone and I think so many people think what I eat, um, and I'll use an example like a form of potato. I can eat a natural raw potato or I can eat a tater tot, right? But
Mhm.
it's potato grouping, and maybe
Yeah,
that's extreme because of fried, but even
yeah.
like I think I guess my understanding maybe is I can really eat almost anything I want if I know the source and it's natural. Is that a
Hmm.
misunderstanding? I mean, it might be wrong. This is just in my mind, but it's like,
Sure. Yeah, I think your body's gonna everybody's a little bit different, right? And but yeah, when you're eating whole food, when you're eating quality food, like your body's natural processes are working properly. And so that's why the GLP-1s have gotten so popular, your Ozempics, your Wegovys, is because that whole system has just been shot. And that's why they're showing the connection to gut health.
okay,
We actually produce our own GLP-1s, and there's certain bacteria that help you produce that. But what we found is a lot of folks that are in more of that obese, diabetic type range is they don't even have that. They're, is so low, that system is operating that they don't have as much, feeling of satiety, feeling of fullness. And so it's like rebooting that system. So, we'll do that with probiotics and things like berberine and stuff to get that working again. Um, but then, yes, to your point, when we basically what happens is when we're eating foods that have things like seed oils or processed foods in them, they are tapping into more of the um, system where it kind of bypasses that satiety and is more in kind of like the pleasure, and so we're not feeling full. And they've really kind of designed that, on purpose. Like they sell
right.
really well, Cheez-Its sell really well. And and they do taste really well. And so it's so it actually taps into more that endocannabinoid system, that cannabis type system, that it's like crack. It's hard to do it. So in the beginning, it's super hard to cut off a lot of those types of foods unless you take that kind of clean break, and it can feel
And
pretty exhausting.
and what I would say is I like this is where then figure out the next best thing. But this is where, having your team, whatever that looks like, that can help guide you in this stuff, I think is so,
Hmm.
so important. Because I think the other debate, I'm curious, the food pyramid, was that a whole far, like, is that a real thing or not? Was that just to sell more of certain foods or?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. So, for those that don't know, the whole everything that kind of got started, in the United States, they usually kind of trace it back to Ansel Keys. And I forget, you probably even know better than I do, which president, was like, oh, we've got this heart disease, we've got to tackle it. And so, yes, it's been a lot of lobbying from the different groups, and that they're wanting you to basically part of the other thing that happened was, when they started figuring out that, cigarettes were bad for us, those same group of people, scientists, were put into the big food, as we would call it.
Okay.
So everything they did to make, cigarettes addictive, which nicotine is actually showing really good results actually itself. They'll do it on your own, but nicotine itself is showing good results. It was everything else about, that was
Yeah.
causing the ingestion, or the inhalation. And so then, but those, as addictive as cigarettes were, those same scientists went over into big food, made everything addicting there. And then, yes, now everything's kind of getting pushed, into the pyramid. So pretty much just
And
that pyramid on its head.
I think the whole all the RFK stuff that was happening and the discussions, which I'm interested in your take on that if you're willing to share.
Yeah.
But the chart that stands out for me is the U.S. spend on healthcare
Mm,
relative to the average life expectancy versus European countries, Asian countries is
yeah.
out of yes, these companies are making a ton of money on us because we're
Mhm.
spending a ton. That's what that means. So,
Yes. Yeah.
um, whether that was to make money or for other, who cares? But the reality is, our spend is crazy high in the healthcare industry, and our longevity and true health is worse than most countries, certainly developed countries. So, yeah, what do you think of all that? And because this, I think the bet, if nothing else, this has gotten a lot
Mhm.
more attention as of late. That I think is a good thing, and people are
Yes.
getting more educated. Regardless of your political stance or what you think of it, I
Yeah.
think it's a good thing for people to be curious.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and as you say that, there's more lobbying in the United States on healthcare than I think defense and a couple of the other ones, like up at the top there, combined. Like it's number one by far. And so what we're fighting now is the other side is now, your health insurance is not even incentivized to help you get healthy. They're incentivized the sicker you are. And so it's like thinking that, your car insurance is gonna, you know, cover your oil change and take care of your regular maintenance. I mean, I know most people spend way more on their car than they do on themselves. But the system is rigged against us because they wait until, like, I'll give you an example. About 80% of people don't know that they're pre-diabetic. So they're trending towards diabetes, but only until you're diabetic will your insurance really kick in and start covering a lot of things.
Yeah.
They're not watching you, trending you. But what we look for is something called fasting insulin that you can see about 10 years before that. And now you still have to ask a typical, like, primary care doctor to test for your fasting insulin. They're going to do blood glucose, which only really is a snapshot. And we've missed the mark. And so that's what you're hearing about if anybody's listening to, Brigham Bueller. He's been on Tucker Carlson and been on Joe Rogan, and he's saying we can predict these things. And it's like, yes, we could have seen that coming 10 years ahead of time.
Right.
But at this point, where we are, the system is rigged, based on what they're incentivized. They're incentivized, um, you know, for more profit. More claims you have, the more profit they make. And
And
so we have to take more of a proactive approach to that
and
ourselves.
the other indication you talked about diabetes is kind of the change in society and the shift. The other one is like testosterone levels and how the healthy level today is different than it was 30 years ago. Like we've literally changed the scale to adapt to an
Exactly.
unhealthy society. And I don't think that's not what you're looking for, right? We're looking for the old norm, like the true health, right?
Right, right. We have, topic or discussions on that all the time. Our team meets every week, but the testosterone was that in the last 20-25 years, it's plummeted 20%. And so then, yeah, that bar just keeps getting set lower and lower. And it's really sad. Most guys just don't know that there are other options out there. There are
Right.
ways to boost that back up. And
Yep.
I forget what else you had said.
Just, I mean, as
Yes.
related to the diabetes, just
Yes.
generally that the
Mm,
scales are shifting because we're just so unhealthy, honestly. And
yes.
we need to use, like, we should not be comparing ourselves to now. Like, we can get back
Yeah.
to where we were 20, 30 years ago, or you individually for sure can get back
Mhm.
to the normal levels. And I think to your point, you guys
Yeah.
are looking at those levels and saying, where should we have people talk about labs, the importance of that a little bit too.
Yeah. So, so important. I'll throw out another one that just gets me going because I mean, there's several of them and because labs are important, I can just say that all day, but I feel like it brings, the picture in your mind of why this is important. For me, it is, I have Alzheimer's on, both sides of my family, dementia, right? And they're saying now that is a type 3 diabetes, but we can predict for that all the way at age 35. We can start to see if you're trending in that direction. There's 3 labs that they had done, triglycerides, HDL, and insulin levels, I believe is the other one, and glucose. So if you are trending that direction, or which they can always be modified, you're not doomed, right? Genetics are only about 30% of, our health. There's a lot that gets turned on and turned off there. But to me, it's like, why would I not want to know whether I'm trending in that direction when there's tons of things you can do at that point in your life? Um, some of the other ones are, there were 0 COVID deaths when your vitamin D levels were between 60 and 80, when a traditional lab is going to say it only needs to be between, 30 and 40.
Should almost everybody be taking some sort of vitamin D supplement?
Again, that's where it's personalized, where it's like, are you absorbing or are you not absorbing? Because that could happen. We'll have folks that'll be like, I've been on 20,000 IUs and, it's low. So it needs to be personalized. So we want to test for that.
Yeah.
And here's the funny thing, an insurance will typically only, does not typically cover it, but they'll want to charge you $400 for it. We get it cash pay for 20 bucks, $22, I think. But they mark up something that is so valuable. Um,
Right.
they really kind
What's
of
their
deter
agenda?
you
Right.
from
Right.
doing something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating at that point. But yes, everybody should be getting tested. And then, yes, it's going to be more of a seasonal approach depending on where you're at in the country. We like using an app called D-Minder, where if you know you're going to be out in the sun, you can turn it on and it'll tell you, or you can set it to like, hey, I'm wearing short sleeves versus pants or something, and it'll tell you, how much vitamin D you're actually getting
Oh, wow. Wow.
today. And so then, have folks that is like, it is imperative that you were, out in the sun, and then, you're not guessing,
Right.
anymore.
I again, I worked with a coach a couple years ago, so like preventative and like just working with labs under my vitamin D levels before like 2 years ago were really low. So then I was intentional about both vitamin D supplements, but also getting out in the sun and being like, I didn't have the D minder, but just getting outside. And then in May they came back much better in a good range, and I'm in a good spot. But the guy that I was working with just said like you've literally reduced the likelihood of like a lot of different diseases by
Mhm.
I don't want to say the right percentage, but like a very very significant percent by getting that level up. And the way I look at labs in general too, I've heard this before, like if you have a car and everything's not clicking on all cylinders, like you go and get that car checked every 3,000 or 5,000 miles. But
Yep.
but are you prioritizing your car over your own health? Like, and how often should we do labs? What's the right frequency to do that? And just have someone that is knowledgeable look over them and say, hey, these are the things you need to be thinking about or adjusting.
Sure. Yeah. So it depends on what you need. Obviously, like at most, or at least you're doing, sorry, at least you're going, yearly. then that's going to determine, hey, X, Y, and Z is out of range. This is more of a 3-month thing. This is more of a 6-month, kind of monitor. Or we're just picking, hey, these 3 or 4 things need to be monitored, not the whole gamut, right?
Yep.
So again, being personalized with that, but yeah, at least once a year.
Well, I think that's a good transition to maybe, you talked about a couple of different things at the beginning and what you bring functional medicine, direct primary care, and physical therapy together at Victress Health. That's what you do. Tell us more about that. Maybe, especially direct primary care and functional medicine, like help us define those and how people work with you to get healthier.
Yeah, the same way that we were trying to fix the system treatment wise of getting to the root cause, it turned out we had to do the same thing on the payer side. Now, how are people interacting with us? Because if we just throw them into the same system, if we just contract with the same insurances, United, Anthem, Aetna, Cigna, whatever, if they're only incentivizing us to, not get our vitamin D and not be prevented about prediabetes, like how are we helping our patients in this way? And so it was like we had to take a total break from that and just say, not only are we going to redo the way that patients receive treatment, but also how they pay for it. And, that we didn't come up with this idea, we're kind of riding on the coattails of other physicians in the country that are doing this and making it more of a subscription-based model, just like, Netflix, where you have a la carte. If you need to come once a week, we'll have people come in a mental health crisis. They're coming in, or we're calling them once a week. Other folks, like you said, hey, maybe we're doing our 3-month lab follow-up, but then we have access to us. They have access to us on the weekends too, where they're texting us, so and so's child had a sinus infection, or, I had a lady, she was in Missouri and slipped, and, I think I tore my ACL. What do I need to do? So you're adding that element of like the family doctor that can capture, as
Yep.
we say, 85 to 90% of what you need. And then, like my father-in-law did have to go to the hospital. And so I'm on the phone, with the doctors, we're talking, so you have that whole gamut of like,
Because
care.
we're not saying hospitals and we're not saying it's all bad. I don't
Yeah.
think we're saying that
Right.
because I think there's time and place for that as
Yes.
well, or
Sure.
surgery. I mean, for
Yeah,
sure. But there's a lot of preventative things we can do, or things we can remedy or take care of that are maybe,
absolutely.
um, I don't know, more natural approaches,
Yeah.
healthier approaches than what maybe traditional medicine might be.
Oh, absolutely. That's really where we kind of see ourselves, as go between that of like, there's got to be the best of both worlds
Yep.
here.
Yeah. Good. And just to clarify it, so like there's a monthly fee someone would pay, and then I mean,
Mhm.
if they're really going through something, they could be in there every single week, or
Sure.
they pay a monthly fee, they can text and call and ask questions, or okay, just in February I get a bug or something, I want to go and get it checked out once a year, to
Right.
whatever it might be. But you
Yeah,
just know you're going to have that service and availability, and it's a fixed monthly fee. And then of course, if it gets if there's something bigger, obviously you have to go to the hospital for a surgery or something like that, right? Is that
exactly. Yep, exactly. So yeah, just the studies are showing, they've even done, the Society of Actuaries has done a study on this, and this is where we've, got a lot of movement in on the actual health insurance side of things, is that they're saying, hey, we're seeing the results, we're seeing the ROI, that this saves our company a ton of money, it saves our patients a ton of money, because none of our interactions go as insurance claims. So just like, the more you get into a car wreck, the more your insurance is going up, right? So the more that can come through us, the less that your insurance sees. And
so like
so,
a big company, for example, I'll just say,
yeah. Mhm.
big corporation, if they work with Victress and they have their employees have memberships, whether they participate, whatever it might be, their insurance premiums for that big company are going to likely drop over time because generally their employee base is going to be healthier and have a need, especially if they're kind of self-insured.
Yes.
Then they're going to really see those costs drop.
Yes. And I would say, so yeah, it becomes a fixed cost for them, which is really nice. And in the same way, most of us, there's a lot of really innovative health share models,
Mm-hmm.
different plan designs that are coming
Yep.
out that
Yep.
include something like this model. It's called direct primary care
Yep.
again, that are incorporating that and saying, hey, we see that you're doing that over there. So we know that you're saving us money. And so, it kind of works that then you have access all the time, and you're not, to me, the biggest thing is, not guessing or waiting, because number one, either we don't know the price, we don't know how much it's going to cost, which is really sad also. And also, what am I going to pay? And so then I'm only going to go because I know it's going to cost me $40 for a copay versus $400 to the ER or whatever. So then I'm just not going, and I'm delaying care until, oh my gosh, now it's really bad and I need my gallbladder removed, right? When we should have been with you that whole journey.
Yeah.
And so that's why the studies are showing so much savings, is we're staying
And
ahead.
I'll just say it's really, really affordable. And the way I would think about this, or the way I do think about this, is first of all, by doing something like this, you're not only getting healthier, you're kind of investing in your health education that you can apply for the
Yeah.
next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it may be. And the little bit of money that you are investing, you're probably going to save that times 10 for the whatever healthcare, medications, you name whatever you would have to do in your 70s and 80s, maybe sooner, maybe later. But
Hmm.
like you're preventing a lot. Like there's a literal dollar ROI in my opinion on this stuff. And again, do think like go do something like this for a year, invest in it, learn about yourself, learn about your body, learn about what you need, learn about what's important in your health. And I just think that payback it is, and it's way more than money. It goes back to the beginning of the conversation and how health impacts everything we do in our ability. If we have a bigger purpose, a bigger mission, whatever that is, it impacts all those things so much. So I
Sure.
just think that the investment is a no-brainer in my opinion.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, some of the studies are showing 2,500 to like 3,100, in savings, per person per year. So it's
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, pretty impactful.
Yeah, not a small amount of money.
Yeah,
Um, I want a few minutes here, but I just want you to step back and think about what you do, kind of the impact you're having. You're really building a team, bringing on more and more patients and growing. Um, but also, it appears staying really, really centered and focused and just and grounded. How does what you do, how does it make you feel?
my husband tries to teach me to not focus on my feelings. No. Stop being emotional. No. Um, yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, I want to be doing God's will. I want to make sure that I'm doing things right. And so for me in this phase of my life is am I doing the right thing to teach and to train, so that this, legacy can grow. And for me, my time right now is more better, is needed a little bit more at home. I have four kids under
Yeah.
8 right now. So it's for me, I feel better when things are in order at home,
Yes.
to know that my
You've
time
got
is
chaos
valued
at home
here.
right now.
What's that?
You've got chaos at home right now that you're just
Yeah,
trying to
just a
keep it
little
all in
bit.
order sometimes. That's
Yeah.
fun though. That's
Yeah.
fun.
So it's learning that balance, as much as possible. But no, for me is as much as we can, help other people, um, I would say make a difference, obviously, in their lives is kind of the cliche, thing to say, but that's
Well,
what makes me feel good. Yeah.
I think again to go back to you know people listening to this, your patients, you know, if you're making them healthy, if they're trying to do good things, they're going to be better at doing good things because they're healthier and they have more
Absolutely.
energy. So I think there's a just like all of us, just everyone, all of our listeners, whatever you're doing, there's a compounding effect to all this. And
Yeah.
sometimes we'll see it, sometimes we won't, but just keep planting the seeds, doing the right thing, and
Yeah.
you'll have a good impact. So how are you like what is going to be key to, you being successful, and we talked about outwardly external success versus interior, like am I just doing the right thing? But for you to be kind of successful, what does that look like? What do you have to do to do so?
Are you talking about as a company or personally, or
Yes.
all of it?
Whatever, I guess however you define that. I want to keep it open-ended for you to whatever's on you're compelled to say.
Yeah, it's important that I feel, and this is, I had a good discussion with kind of a younger business owner, this past weekend, of just like, it's not just about impacting your clients, but you're impacting your employees' lives and your staff
For
lives,
sure.
life too. And so for me, it's about providing that healthcare experience for as many providers as possible. And so that we're growing in that direction, and we've been very blessed. We've been asked to build in new areas, new regions of Ohio because businesses are seeing the value so much. So that's going to be the quickest way we'll grow. We're all about families. We're all about promoting life, right? But the quickest way we can reach really even some of those families that are on the fringes of I'm not really qualified for Medicaid. I'm not really, I'm not, don't feel like I can swing this in my budget, right? And so we're reaching those kind of blue collar, families that are in the
Yep.
cracks, able to access this type of high quality care, and
Hmm.
companies are able to provide that. Honestly, even for less than what they were paying.
Yeah, and I think you can have a big impact with that demographic in both not just their health, probably their mindset in a lot of different ways. So,
Mhm.
Lisa, I this has been fun, and I just appreciate it so much. I mean, the discussion on first of all your background, I really appreciate that. Even tying back to as a kid and the impact we're having, and we're really creating that mindset for our kids and what their health is going to be for the next generation, the next couple generations. So really the why, I mean, sleep, stress. We talked about fitness. We talked about what we're eating. Just a lot of really good high level but very practical things that people can apply. So I learned a lot here. I appreciate it so much. How can people find out more about what you're doing, Lisa?
Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit, Lisa Marino, and then our website is victresshealth.com.
Awesome, Lisa. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate it so much. For the Muller Real Estate and Business Podcast, signing off. Thank you for listening to the Muller Real Estate and Business Podcast. We hope you found today's episode helpful. If you know current or aspiring investors or entrepreneurs or anyone that would benefit from today's episode, we appreciate you sharing it with them, or better yet, providing us a 5-star review. To learn more about Muller Real Estate, visit our website at www.mullerre.com. You can also sign up for our newsletter or local events via our website. In closing, I encourage you to be purposeful in all areas of life, educate yourself, network with others that have been successful, take action, and lead. Thank you.